Hello team, Lisa working from the Proven Group here, and I want to share with you a really well-known but very simple methodology or model of thinking that has proven results in terms of enabling people to achieve and succeed. I always talk to my participants in the trainings that I do about what is the purpose of life, what do we think the purpose of us being here is. And I'm a big believer that on some level, all of us want to achieve a sense of happiness. We want to feel happy, and we're striving to achieve that, that sense of happiness and calm in our lives. And so this model is a great way to remember how to achieve happiness. And so it's a very simple structure. First of all, we have what's known as above the line, and second of all, we have what's below the line. So starting with below the line, we have a way of thinking that puts the blame on other people, other things, blaming the government for, the decisions that they're making, or blaming the upcoming politicians, nominations, and blaming the interest rates, and blaming the weather, and blaming the traffic, and all the things that outside of us cause us to not perform or to not do what we said we were going to do. The fancy word, the dressed up version of blame, is making excuses. I couldn't do that because the dog ate my homework. I couldn't do that because the traffic was bad, or I couldn't get there on time. There's always an excuse for why we couldn't do something. And finally, a little bit more dressed up and harder to see, denial. Well, I wasn't even aware of it. I wasn't even sure that that was the case, or I didn't know that this was even a problem. This is a well covered up excuse for why things don't happen. And this way of thinking is essentially taking away our power. It's giving our power away to something external to us, meaning that we're playing the victim. We are a victim in the situation. Now, this is all good and well, and society kind of teaches us how to think like this because we don't want to take responsibility, or we fear taking responsibility. But by thinking below the line, we essentially give all of our power, all of our empowerment away to something else. Which, how does that make us feel? If you think about when you have no power, when you're a victim, the feeling is a very heavy and negative and disempowered feeling, which doesn't make us feel happy, doesn't make us feel good. And so it's a very negative way of being, compared to above the line thinking, which is thinking more along the lines of, how do I take ownership of this situation? What did I do to maybe not get this right? And how can I change it for the future to improve? How can I be accountable? How can I be accountable to the results I'm getting, and how can I then change what I'm doing so that I can get a better result next time? And how can I take responsibility? What am I responsible for that I can change, that can then impact the results moving forward? So below line thinking is very much past focus. You're focused on the past. As we all know, this is something we can't do anything about. We're completely powerless to do anything about what's happened in the past. Above the line thinking is much more future orientated and focuses on what we can do differently next time to achieve in the future. So as I was saying, below the line is where someone or something else owns your power, and you've got no ability to change it. Above the line thinking is where you own your power. And yes, the results may suck. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Sometimes we get a result and it's horrible and it's not nice. But if we stay above the line, then we have the ability to go, okay, what can I learn from this? What can I do differently next time? How can I change something that's happening so I can change the result moving forward? And that's where we are in our own power, where we hold our power and we have the ability to do something about it. otherwise known as victim thinking, or behaving like a victim, and victor thinking, so behaving and acting like a victor. Now, an example of this is I used to manage two travel agents. The first one, in the last couple of years that I was there, was very successful, very profitable, and making, good money. We were very busy. There's a lot high walk-in traffic and lots of inquiry. Then I moved 3 kilometres down the road to a different store, a different shopping centre, opened a store there in that shopping centre, and we weren't known in that shopping centre. And I had a brand new team of consultants who had become very friendly with my old team that was only 3 kilometres up the road. And my new team started to say things like, oh, we can't be successful because they have a great location. They have got lots of walk-in traffic, lots of inquiry. We don't have that, so we can't be successful. And I knew as a leader I had to nip that in the bud, because if I let them believe that and think like that, then I knew that there was never going to be a chance for them to be successful. So I had to nip that in the bud immediately. And because I knew that I couldn't pick up the shop location and put it in the middle of the food court and say, okay, now be successful. That's physically not possible. So I knew that we had to start thinking differently. Yes, the old store had lots of inquiry and lots of walk-in, and that was great. And so I knew we had to think differently about how can we generate the same amount of inquiry, the same amount of customers as what we had in the old store. And that was simply by doing things a little bit differently. So we created a shopping centre staff discount for the customers. We met with all the local sports clubs, footy clubs, and implemented a sort of an incentive scheme that when people booked their holidays, their personal holidays with us, then we make a donation back to the local football club. And this was the very thing that started to generate the inquiry and the walk-ins that we needed to achieve what we wanted to achieve. And so with that, we did achieve, and that team became as successful, if not more, than the team beforehand, the old team. So it's not what I want to really get across to you is the situation is never the problem. It is how we think about the problem that is what will impact our results and determine our experience of it. So it's a choice that we have to make, is how are we going to think about any given situation, whether it be at work or at home? Are we going to lay blame and make excuses and have reasons why we can't succeed or can't achieve what we want to achieve? Or are we going to take ownership and responsibility and be accountable for why we can achieve, why we can learn something from what's happened so far and make a change to our actions to get a different result next time? One of the things that I always also share in my trainings is that the story of Bill Gates and the employee at Microsoft. He made a huge error and it cost the company $1 million. And the next day, the employee walks into Bill Gates' office and hands him a resignation letter. And Bill Gates like, what's that? He said, I'm resigning. And Bill Gates' response was, I am not letting you resign. I've just invested $1 million into your education. So it's how we look at mistakes or things that go wrong and then reframe it to, okay, what can we learn from it? What can we do differently? Because that's what is in our control. That is where our power is, so that we can impact the results moving forward. And so that's the key here is, this is always a choice. How we think about a situation is what impacts our experience of the situation, and that is always a choice. So above the line thinking gives you more power, makes you feel more empowered, and enables you to be positive. Below the line gives you the opposite, gives away your power, makes you feel disempowered, and very much makes you feel negative. So the choice is yours. What do you choose when it comes to above the line thinking? You're going to choose to be above the line, or you're going to choose to be below the line? Bye for now.